Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we will discuss books both new and old. I will share with you pictures of my cats, will make you wish they were your cats, and I will drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. So, let's get a few things out of the way. I am practically bald right now. I will give you a moment to laugh. No, it was not necessarily by choice, but it's happened and there's nothing I can do about it. So, as ridiculous as it looks on me, it is what it is until the hair comes back. So, I was gone for a while. My lovely wife Paige was on another work trip. It was a 3-week trip this time. And I do not do well while she's gone. I'm not a very sociable, nice person without her here. So I did not want to bring that negativity on here. But now she is back, therefore I am back. That said, we have some catching up to do. So this video will consist of 2 weeks or thereabout. My next video will consist of 2 weeks or thereabout. And then the video after that, we'll be back to weekly wrap-ups. Because I was enjoying the weekly wrap-up thing. I think it was working well for me. I want to continue doing so. So, this video is going to be a wrap-up that encompasses basically November 26th through December 10th. So, in that time period, I read 11 books, which really doesn't sound like a lot at all. But apparently that's all it was, 11 books. So, we're going to talk about the 11 books. First, I'm going to give you guys a little cat footage. And we will go on and get into it. So first book in this case is one that I've been dying to get to. It actually belongs to my sibling Shy. This is F.T. Lukens with Spellbound. This beautiful cover here. Equally beautiful all around, in fact. And this book was just as good as I'd hoped. It ended up being a 5-star for me. And in fact, if I end up doing a best of the year, I think this is going to end up on it because this was easily one of the most enjoyable books that I've read this year. I will be getting my own copy if I don't just steal Shy's. So this is the story of a young man who decides that he wants to work for one of the most powerful magic wielders in the city. So he just goes to her office one day and says, hey, if you're looking for help around the office, I will gladly help you. No, I'm not magic in any way. And yes, that technically means I'm not allowed to work here, but I really want to work here anyway. And through various mishaps, he does in fact end up working for her. And very soon thereafter, he meets one of her friends slash rivals who also has an apprentice, and that apprentice is rather attractive to our to our main character here, and they also kind of start a friends slash enemies kind of scenario. And basically the 4 of them, they are hired by various companies, various people in the city to come take care of problems when they have hexes, curses, whatever placed on them, which is a fairly common occurrence in this particular world. So the dialogue in this is hilarious. The situations that the characters get themselves in also very hilarious. The way that they interact with one another is just so enjoyable, very sweet at times, and other times you just can't help but grin because they're acting like, you know, they can't stand each other, but we as readers know that something is happening between them. So fantastic book here. I loved it. Definitely will make my top books of 2023 list, and you may hear me talk a bit more about it then. Now, the next one on my list was Beyond the Hawthorne Tree by Caitlin Wilson. This was a 3-star for me. This is about a girl that is sent to this island to live with her grandmother. Basically, she just can't keep herself out of trouble. And so the grandmother says, send her to me. I'll make sure she stays out of trouble and that we get her on the right track, basically. Well, in her time there on the island, this girl realizes that one, people on this island really don't like her grandmother and therefore don't like her. And two, it may have something to do with a very strange, almost urban legend myth that has to do with the nearby beach and some magical items around the town. So this is another one that gets into a bit of mysticism. This one, however, takes a very different turn. I was very invested in the first part of the book, but it started losing me as the book went on, and I think the author just sort of lost direction, lost that tone that was in the first part of the book that I enjoyed so much, but this ended up being a 3-star for me. Still worth a read. Number 3 was Dom by S.J. Tilley. I read this because over on my wife's channel, her and another booktuber are doing a monthly book club, and this was the book they picked for that month. So I decided to surprise page and read it so that I could jump in and talk about it on their, end of the month discussion. And it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. You guys should definitely check out the stream from that. I'll link it below if I'm able to link it below. But it was a lot of fun, and this book was pretty unhinged, as Paige would say, in regards to the romance genre. This was actually one of the more enjoyable ones that I have read from that genre. Of course, still not necessarily my thing, but I actually gave this one 4 stars. I had a lot of fun with it, despite the fact that the main male character should be arrested and placed far, far away from other people, and certainly away from females. But it was so unhinged and ridiculous that you couldn't help but have fun with it, like a bad B movie that we all know and love. So 4 stars on that one. And again, I'll try and link that discussion that we had down below, because we had a lot of fun on there, and they are doing it again this month, coming up here I think in about a week or so. I think it's another romance this month, and then next month they'll get into a thriller. So if you're interested at all in that, check it out on their channels, and you'll probably see me in the live stream again this coming time as well. So number 4 was Legacies, and this is a collection of short stories and vignettes, all by new writers that are 60 years old or older. And actually, I want to say after reading this, there aren't any fictional stories in here, really. Everything is an account of that person's life, just a little story from their lifetime. And what's really, really interesting about this book is that some of these people lived through the Great Depression. Some of them lived before that, and it was so fascinating to read those stories about what it was like then. Now, these are not individuals that are writers necessarily, so some of their little stories, their little anecdotes, didn't necessarily work out all that well, but I was actually very surprised by a lot of them, and I gave this 3.5, maybe 4 stars. Overall, this was a surprisingly fun little collection to read, and just like I said, so interesting to read about these folks that were alive 100 years ago. What it was like during the Great Depression, what it was like when World War II was initially beginning, or for some of them, in fact, what it was like during World War One. I mean, it's really pretty crazy. You have from all walks of life. Some of them are going to be very difficult to read. There are some folks of the Jewish religion who discuss the Holocaust and what occurred then to them and their families. But there was also a lot of silliness and fun to be had, but really enjoyable actually, and one that I will definitely go back to again in the future. Next up was The Haunted by Bentley Little. This was my first audiobook out of this group. Bentley Little, to me, is one of those characters that I always have a good time with his books. For the most part, his writing is somewhat silly and out there, but he has this knack for taking the most mundane, everyday annoyances and turning them into atrocious horrors, and that's what makes his writing so much fun. Now, this one is closer to a traditional horror story, I think, in that not really that mundane, everyday kind of thing to this, other than just purchasing a house and not knowing what you're going to get, which can also be a legitimately scary thing, especially nowadays, the way the housing market is. But I said this one, despite not having that thing like Bentley Little's work normally does, it was still very much a Bentley Little book. 4 stars. It is not the best Bentley Little, but it is also far from the worst. And this may be a good starting off point if you're not as familiar with his work. But just know that in other books, his ideas get more outlandish than this is on the house. So keep that in mind. Alright, number 6 was Stories of the North by Jack London. I'll be honest, I'm not really going to talk about this much. It was 2 stars for me. I just couldn't get into it. I was struggling throughout. I had a hard time with it. So that's one that I'm not going to be keeping, and I'm not really going to talk about on here. Same with number 7. This is The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. A lot of people like this novella. I just didn't care for it. I could never really get into it. So I think he gave it 2.5 stars maybe. The beginning was somewhat intriguing, but it really started to lose me after a certain point, and I just never got into it, you know? Number 8 was one that I was really excited to get into. This is Charles Ash with Hall of Mirrors. And obviously, if you couldn't tell based off the the book itself, if you are a fan of point horror, if you're a fan of Christopher Pike, of Carolyn B. Cooney, you're probably going to dig this book. It is in that realm, just with a slightly updated, more modern feel, with some non-heterosexual characters involved, so you get a little representation there. This book is about a boy whose twin dies, and we don't know how he dies. We just know that he blames himself for it. Halloween is coming about. They go to this big get-together, carnival kind of deal. He gets his fortune told, and the fortune teller says, there's a darkness around you, and if you don't figure it out, more people are going to die. And so basically he thinks that it has something to do with his brother and with what happened to his brother. If you have read the point horror books before, then you know exactly what to expect with this. There were a couple spots where it lost me just a little bit, but overall really enjoyable. I gave this one 4 stars. I love the cover. And I think this is actually the first book by Charles Ash as well, so I'm really looking forward to more from this author in the future. Very solid if you're a fan of point horror, if you're a fan of Christopher Pike, etc., etc. You should definitely pick up Hall of the Mirrors. It's a quick read and it's a fun read. Okay, number 9, another one that I'm not really going to talk about, is Return of the Living Elves by Brian Osmond. This one did not work for me at all. The humor was not funny. It was just stupid. In my opinion, anyway. I gave it 1 star. We're not going to talk about it. Okay, number 10 was my second audiobook. This is The Usual Santas, edited by Peter Lovesey. This was 4 stars. Anthologies are always somewhat difficult, but I try not to bring their ratings down too much just because there's a bad story or two, you know? Because, such in this case, yeah, there are 1 or 2 that didn't work for me, so it can't be a 5-star, but overall it was a really fun, solid collection. The cover maybe would lead you to believe that this is a little more light-hearted, but there's actually some fairly dark stories in here. That said, I still had a great time with it. I would love to have a physical copy of it, because I love the cover and because I would like to enjoy it again in the future. But overall, a really solid collection if you're looking for Christmas crime anthology for this time of the year. And then the final book that I got to within this time period is What the Frost by Ben Wolfe. Now this is a tough book to rate. So here's the thing. For the majority of this book, it was 5 stars. The humor was my kind of humor, where it was not so over the top and ridiculous that I was just shaking my head, but it was there, it was making me chuckle, but at the same time, I was invested in the story and I was into it. So for the majority of the story, it was 5 stars. And I thought, man, this is awesome. This is one. It's part of a series, and I know that I'm going to want to read the rest of the series. So I was really excited. And then we get to maybe 60% of the way into the book, something like that. Maybe even further than that. And Santa basically says, "I need some help. We need a weapons expert, and I know a guy." And they go to see Santa's buddy, Vladimir Putin. And then things go downhill, because from that point on, Vladimir becomes a hero. Not even a reluctant hero. He sacrifices himself to save Santa and his friends, and they make him out like a hero. And that was the point of the book where it just totally lost me all at once. As soon as we got to that part, basically, where Vladimir is best buds with Santa, I'll be honest, yeah, it's totally a political thing, but I just couldn't get behind it at all. So it lost me at that point. I think I put this as a 3-star on Goodreads, basically to say that up to that point it was 5 stars. After that it was 1 star, and it's such a disappointment. I kept waiting for the other foot to fall, basically, and for Vladimir to be obliterated in some awful way and show what a terrible person he is. But no, they are fully behind this guy. They're like, hey, he's done some bad stuff, but he's actually a really nice person, and so here you go, we're going to show you he's a nice person because he saved Santa and his buddies. And I'm like, no, I'm not, that's not for me, we're not doing that. So that was pretty much where the book ended for me, which is unfortunate because that's also where this particular wrap-up ends. But yeah, that's 11 books that I read between November 26th through December 10th. I'm going to basically finish this up and then jump right back on here in the same clothing, same coffee, just with a refill, to do my next wrap up. And then I should be caught up again, and we can go back to a normal weekly wrap up. So that'll do it for now. You guys got a little cat footage. You got to laugh at me because I do not do well as a bald man. But you will see me again here very soon with my next wrap up, where we can catch up and we can start having some fun again. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Drink great coffee. Cheers.